Hello there, very good evening and welcome to Let's Talk Politics. I'm your host, Layne, and of course, this program is dedicated to examine current developments taking place under the People's Progressive Party civic government. And of course, we use the opportunity also to respond to the lies, misinformation, and divisive rhetoric being spread by the APNU AFC coalition. I have with me this evening on this program the Honorable Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs, Anil Nandlall, as well as Minister of Labor, the Honorable Joseph Hamilton. Minister Nandlall, Minister Hamilton, good evening and welcome to the program.
Hi, Eddie. Good evening, Anil.
Good evening, Eddie. Good evening, Joe. I'm happy to be here.
AG, I want to start with you, and tonight I'm gonna do the program a little different, where I'm gonna more or less, instead of us having a conversation, I'm gonna give both you and Minister Hamilton most of the opportunity to bring clarity and to respond to the misinformation campaign that is being waged against the government and recent decisions taken. I Recently, the government took a decision where it has decided to institute a visa requirement, or to reinstitute, in some instances, a visa requirement for the entry of some nationals into Guyana. Um, but I suspect it is not an overnight exercise, but rather an exercise that has a history. And prior to the 2020 elections, we had some discussions, we had some information around why, maybe, or some information that led to a policy being implemented where Haitians as well as Cubans in the most recent times being required visas to enter Guyana. AG, from a legal perspective, I'm going to give you a chance to start the ball rolling to really put things into perspective on this matter.
All right. Thank you very much, Eddie, and good evening to your viewers and listeners. Now, Guyana is part of a globe. I'm getting a lot of feedback here. I don't understand. Eddie, I am getting a lot of feedback. That, yes, so I'm back on, I suppose. So, Guyana is part of a global village. And Guyana, as every country in that village, is required to sign on to international conventions and is expected to execute certain protocols which are required internationally. Trafficking in person is one of the most serious offenses afflicting the world today. Hundreds, if not thousands, of children, women, and men are being trafficked in every part of the world. Human smuggling is a major international threat in today's global environment. And it is against that backdrop that one must view the decision of the government of Guyana. I hear people saying that President Ali made a decision or the Attorney General made a decision. Neither is true. The government of Guyana made a decision. And this decision was not made lightly. This decision took months before it was made. Careful analysis was put into it. We had engagements with our neighboring countries. Brazil expressed a great concern that Guyana is being used as a transshipment point to unleash aliens into that country. Suriname has had discussion with us along the same lines. We engaged the Cubans, we engaged the United States Embassy and drew our concerns to their attention. We engaged the United Nations organizations here for human rights. We engaged Interpol and we made a decision. The decision. Now, we examined the statistics, and I want to share those statistics with your viewers. From 2015 to 2021, 42,100 Haitians entered Guyana lawfully. Let me repeat that. From 2015 to 2021, 42,100 Haitians entered Guyana legally. During that same period, 3,913 Haitians left Guyana legally. 3,913 Haitians left Guyana legally. That means that 38,187 Haitians who entered Guyana legally cannot be accounted for. 38,187 cannot be accounted for. Now, you and I live in Guyana. Guyana is a very close knit society. I don't think anyone can argue that 38,187 Haitians are with us in Guyana. It would be impossible and improbable for anyone to try to articulate such a contention. It is plainly and manifestly false if anyone would attempt to do that. So, where did 38,187 persons go? Now, I want to make it clear that based upon the evidence that we have seen, a large number of these persons here, 38, large number of the 38,187, or large number of the 42,100 are children. They consist of women, underage girls, pregnant mothers, and they cannot be found anywhere in Guyana. When they enter these countries into Guyana, uh, there is when from all the evidence, and we have accumulated evidence over a protracted period of time. There is a highly organized operation that has all the trappings of an organized ring that deal with these Haitians from the time they leave the departure launch of the Cherry Jagan International Airport. They are whisked away into waiting vehicles and they are taken to destinations in various parts of the country where travel documents are taken from them and they are held hostage in those accommodations. They don't get to come out, they can't dwell with anyone, they can't socialize. Their monies, their personal belongings, and their travel documents are taken from them and are kept by the person or persons who are in this operation. to Suriname, Berbice, where they cross illegally with backtrack boats and they go to Suriname. They are exposed to I don't know how many perils along that journey. I'm speaking about small children, young children, pregnant mothers. They have to travel from Georgetown in the night all the way to the southern border where they are sent over to Brazil, and that is how they leave this country. Do you know the harrowing experience that these people go through, and where they are going? I don't know, and to whom they are handed over, you don't know. I have evidence of this now because only 2 days ago, or sorry, last week, 10 young Haitians, 5 females, and 5 males, none of them beyond 22 or 23 years, young girls, young boys, one of the girls are pregnant, and they have been locked up in a room in a hotel in Skeldon. They have no passport, they have not no money, and no personal belonging. All have been taken from them, and they have been locked in that hotel. Fortunately, someone informed the police, and the police went in there, and they are now in Guyana. Now, we didn't lock them up because technically that is what really the law requires, because they have entered Guyana illegally. They didn't come through any airport. Apparently, they came across the Quarantine River, backtrack illegally. So they have all committed criminal offenses. Instead, we have them at the Hugo Chavez shelter where they are being looked after and are being fed until we try to find, or the police try to find, the persons who have disappeared with their passports and their personal belongings. Now, that is only I'm only dealing with 10 persons there. We are talking about 38,000 persons. I come back to our international obligations. Guyana is not without experience in relation to sanctions being imposed on Guyana. Fresh in our minds is the experience we have had with the APNU AFC's refusal to support certain legislation when we were a minority government in the parliament in relation to anti money laundering, countering the financing of terrorism. And as a result, a whole constellation of sanctions were imposed on Guyana and on Guyana's financial sector. Up to now, up to now, we are still battling to remove those sanctions and the stigma that it carries. Today, I had the privilege of addressing a forum where the World Bank met with Guyana's AML CFT structure. And I had to report, so to speak, on the progress that we are making in terms of dealing with AML CFT, because as part of the national requirements, our country has to be regularly assessed, our systems examined, and our financial structure scrutinized to ensure that it is not penetrated and contaminated with illegal monies and illegal funds, and that we are a haven, so to speak, for drug trafficking, terrorism, and money launderers. We have similar obligations in relation to human trafficking and people smuggling. We are rated by international agencies when we fail to discharge these obligations. So I say all of that to let people understand that this thing has to do with what is in the best interest of Guyana. But of course, persons are using this opportunity to satisfy some sick and sadistic agendas that they have. But when you are in government, you have to take the high road and you have to do what you know is in the best interest, even for of those who are attempting to undermine you. Now, the other point that I want to make is that Guyana is not singular. Guyana is not singular in relation to the position that we have adopted in respect of Haitians. Trinidad and Tobago, Barbados, Bahamas, Jamaica, Antigua, St. Lucia, Belize, St. Kitts and Nevis, and Dominica have all done the same. They have all done the same. Is it also that those people are practicing what these people are saying, are accusing us of? Is that the argument? Why persons can't look and see that we have a problem? Here with the Haitians, I have not addressed the, the Venezuelans. I have not addressed the illegal mining that is taking place in our mining industry. I've not yet addressed to some extent the Cubans. So
Minister,
um, so those are my opening remarks, and I can continue to speak after you engage, Mr. Minister Hamilton.
uh, thanks, AG. And I deliberately allowed you to utilize the time to set the context because there is a misinformation campaign that has been launched that is raging, where the argument is, and incidentally, this issue, and luckily too, this issue is something that we addressed while we were in the opposition. Already you're hearing there is some attempt to target Africans, persons of African ancestry. And Minister Hamilton, this is not a new argument. It is almost everything that we discuss on the face of this earth that the PVP address, including the illegalities that took place during the elections 2020. You're hearing the one accusation. It's targeting Afro Guyanese and people of African ancestry. Minister Hamilton, this is the old argument of the PNC. How do you respond to that?
Pointers, Eddie, let me start off by saying that what we have, as articulated by the Attorney General, is organized crime of trafficking in persons and people smuggling. And you have some ignoramuses and some that are, I would say, educated ignoramuses who are seeking to argue that because they are of African ancestry, we must leave them alone. I mean, no government governs in a way whereby it would apply law and it would apply order based on ethnic origins of persons. You know, Eddie, the same persons, and Anil and the views, the same people who argue that the government should leave the Asians alone, if we had, as put forward by the Attorney General, 42,000 Indians or Bangladeshis or Pakistanis arriving in Guyana and disappearing by the tens of thousands, the same persons would have had another argument. An argument to say that the PPP government is allowing that to happen because they're of Indian origin. So at no time you can win, because what you have people who are willingly ignorant, they know better. Because you would see some persons who they have schooling, they have tertiary education, some they have 1 and 2 degrees and even doctorates, and they peddle this foolishness. It means that it is not the logic of it why they peddle it. It is because they want to create ethnic strife and ethnic tension. That is what it is about. They must know, based on all what the AG articulated about our obligations and all the likes. Some of these people served in government, and so they're aware of these obligations. But again, is to create ethnic strife. Look, as I speak to you, Eddie, right now as I speak to you, there are several dozens of Asians locked up in several rooms in a hotel in New Amsterdam Bordeaux. As I speak to you right now, children, young girls, they were dumped there since last night by a man and a woman who disappeared, who indicated that the woman will return to pay the hotel bill. She has not yet returned. And even tonight, some more of them have been dumped at the hotel in New Amsterdam. And the crime and criminality is so organized because, according to the people who could speak sprinkling of English, they are to journey to Brazil. So you'd want to think the fact that they are kept locked up in Berbice is to be smuggled to Suriname. But they are locked up since last night, and some more came today, locked up in this hotel. Now the question to be asked, how did they get into Guyana? That's it. And how will they get out of Guyana? But right now, they are imprisoned, so to speak, because technically, if the people who brought them there and dumped them there never returns, we will have a situation, as the AG just said, where instead of 10, the government must facilitate and accommodate to look after their social services. We will have several dozens more. And that is the possibility that by the morning, the Hugo Chavez Center might have to receive several dozens more of Asians who might be abandoned in a hotel. The persons who abandoned them not returning to pay the hotel bill. I can tell you, Eddie, that presently they're hungry, they're starving. Local people who are staying at the hotel and who have gone there have had to feed them, buy bread and drink and so for them to eat, because they're there since last night without food and no money left for them to feed themselves. And that is a present situation. Present as I speak to you, ongoing right now, beginning last night and continuing. So we have people who are attempting to justify and attempting to negate the government efforts on the conversation, like they always do, about ethnic origin of persons and discrimination. Why not make the same argument for the Trinidadian government, the Bahamas government, and all the other governments in CARICOM and in the Caribbean, who have long before Guyana taking the position that Haitians must have visa to enter their country because they sought not to have a situation as developed over the years that the AG outlined, where you have 42,000 persons arriving and 38,000 disappearing. Uh, you don't know where they went to. And if you recall, viewers, Rudishol, that when Felix was asked this question and it was put to him, he, as Minister of Citizenship and Immigration, indicated that he had no difficulty, and the government, the Granger government, had no difficulty, that the people were illegally entering into a neighboring country, into Brazil. He took the position that the government will not act and it is not the government business because they're not staying here. But the point is, they knew that they were utilizing Guyana in this organized criminal ring as a transshipment point for people who they're trafficking and people who they're smuggling. And there were all allegations, in some instances justified allegations, that persons who have relationship with the APNU AFC Granger government were participants in this organized criminal ring. And no doubt, they might still be facilitators and organizers in this criminal ring of trafficking in persons and human smuggling. You know, importantly, just the other day, the so-called Guyana Human Rights Association jumped up when there was an intervention by IRI to deal with GCOM and the constitutional reform and electoral reform, rather. You would want to think that they would be front and center in this matter. But you have never heard them, as human rights as they say they are, spoken to this matter about people smuggling. That is blatant and before us. And for those who think I'm just peddling falsehood, those Apnuites and the supporters of the Granger cabal, you can go now. Call me and I'll tell you where the hotel is in Barbies, New Amsterdam, where dozens of Haitians right now are imprisoned in hotel rooms. Several of them in one room in this hotel. Women, children, young girls are there. So the government, we must govern, and we must utilize legal instrument to ensure that Guyana is not utilized as a transshipment point to smuggle persons into neighboring countries.
Thank you very much, Minister Hamilton. And AG, I'm going to bring you in back here because we went back to the beginning of this, and we raised this issue while in opposition. The PPP has highlighted. You, AG, um, Minister Hamilton, and the leader of the opposition, then now Vice President, have all spoken about this matter where there was evidence of people smuggling involving predominantly Haitians. But the government AG has taken a decision to deal with at least in the first instance two groups, that is the Haitians and the Cubans. And already you're hearing the argument about why not the Venezuelans, why not the Brazilians. But one would appreciate that the Venezuelans, there's a different different circumstances under which the Venezuelans are not just coming to Guyana, but are moving to most neighboring countries because of the situation in their country. I doubt a government can, on humanitarian grounds, can deal with the situation similarly. But I'll allow you to maybe put that in the context. I think you're muted, AG. You may have to unmute.
The truth of the matter is that there are international protocols and arrangements which govern the Venezuelan surveillance. So they are in a different category. But I want to develop a point that my brother Hamilton spoke about, and it is about the criminal nature of this enterprise, because this is what it is. It's an international conspiracy. These people are being trafficked, I don't know, a lot of them to the United States of America. That is the information that we have. And importantly, they are paying as high as 25,000 US to get there from Guyana. As I said, that this is not, we have not made this decision lightly and overnight. We did thorough investigations. To pick them up from the airport, to bring them to Georgetown is 500 US per head. To take them from Georgetown to Lethem is another 1,000 US. And then to take them across the border is another 1,000 US. So this thing is a highly profitable thing. When we were in the opposition, the reports that we had received was that they were even given Guyana passport to leave smoothly from here. And recall, a passport contract was given out to a crony in Fort Lauderdale. 500,000 passports. Where are those passports? They're not in the system. This government has to buy passports now. Birth certificates, sorry. Birth certificates. We had to order birth certificates recently, and passports as well. So I do not rule out that there was complicity under the last administration. In fact, many of the persons who are listening to us here may have had the occasion or experience of being at the airport at the same time when these Haitians come in. And they will tell you, I witnessed it for myself, twice coming in from Panama, where they are taken somewhere else, a different desk at the airport, and a different immigration officer looks at them, and a different custom officer looks at them, giving the clear impression that there was a sponsorship, a state sponsorship involved. And that is why Felix could not have been bothered. He could not have been bothered. So there is no doubt that this is a criminal conspiracy that is being played out here. And we, just the same way that Guyana is being used as a transshipment point for cocaine, nobody disputing that. Well, it's the same thing here. We are being used as a transshipment point for human smuggling and human trafficking. That is all that this is. So no one is looking out or speaking about the interest of these young children and what they are going through. As I said, there is a pregnant mother who is in the Hugo Chavez Center there. Very pregnant, obviously pregnant. But nobody cares about the welfare of that woman. They want to play the race card. And they play the race card with anything. As I said, you charge Lowenfield. The whole world saw what Keith Lowenfield did, what Myers did, what Mingo did. You charge them, they are charged because they are Afro-Guyanese. So I don't know who they want us to charge. Who attempted to use a spreadsheet with fraudulent figures? I can't remember Bibi Shadiq trying to do that. Who you want us to charge? Is that Mingo who tried to do that? Who is the chief elections officer who felt that he can prepare a report with his own numbers and not the results recounted at the recount process? That Lowenfield who did that? Prepared and presented a fraudulent report? Says Gunraj didn't do that, so who you want us to charge? So that is what we are dealing with in Guyana. You have a pack of people that all they see is race and racism. I don't know how you deal with that, but we simply have to keep rejecting these notions as they are presented, or else you can't administer a country based upon race. You administer a country based upon a constitution and the laws of that country and international regulations and the policies of your government. So we have, Eddie, to try as much as we can to explain, ensure that the correct information is disseminated in the public domain. We have no power or prerogative in terms of who will believe it and how they will twist it, but it's our duty to explain what we have to do as a government. And any government in our position, as 13 governments in the Caribbean have done, have taken steps to address this issue. And that is what it is.
And AG, if I could be bold enough to say this, is the accusation about this being a race issue, being an issue where the government of Guyana somehow have an issue with people of African ancestry. Then what do you say about this? The same 13 governments you mentioned in the Caribbean, many of whom are dominated by persons of African ancestry. Are they being racist by doing that? Are they to allow people to enter their country? Are they to allow illegalities and not act against it? Uh, and you're hearing the whole argument again about the visa restriction or people required visa to travel to Guyana and they're members of CARICOM and so forth. But you put it into perspective by mentioning other CARICOM countries that have implemented similar restrictions. Minister
Let me mention
Hamilton,
it. Let me mention it
go ahead, go
again
ahead.
for those who didn't get it. Trinidad and Tobago, Barbados, Bahamas, Jamaica, Antigua, Saint Lucia, Belize, Saint Kitts, and Nevis, Dominica. All these countries have done it, and I had the privilege of sitting at heads of government meetings where this thing came up, and Haitians, etc. And I heard the arguments for myself from all these CARICOM leaders. So the race card simply can't play here. It can't play here. It has no relevance whatsoever. But of course, you have persons whose minds are deep in the gutter of racism, so that's all that they can hold on to. That's all they see. They look at anything and they see race.
I'll bring you in here now,
As I
Minister
said,
Hamilton. Before you
yes.
go, go ahead, AG, go ahead. Let AG wrap up and then I'm going to bring you in because I want to move to another issue.
No, no, I was just saying that, that is what it is, a criminal enterprise. And look, Eddie, a large number of persons in this country are aware of the intricate operations of this thing. This thing is huge. People are providing food, people are providing transportation, people are doing all kind of arrangements, people are finding the boats, people are finding. So it's a huge ring. I don't want to implicate, but there are persons outside of Guyana too who are organizing. When you think these people go to Brazil, you think they're just, let out just like that in Brazil? They are handed over to another group of smugglers. When they go to Suriname, they are handed over to another group of smugglers. And there's an elaborate operation there. So this thing crosses international borders. This is an international crime for which people are prosecuted in other parts of the world. In Guyana, you get this kind of inane and insane argument to deal with.
And God knows where when they're handed over AG and Joe to others in these countries, where do they end up? No one knows. Where do they end up exactly? But Minister Hamilton, I'll bring you in here because we've heard this argument repeatedly, and it's about everything. And I think the AG put it into perspective. The issue at GCOM, the issue at Lands and Survey, all over all parts of the country where you have people who are either involved in illegal activities, who were political appointees, who were sitting in offices drawing down large sums of monies, doing nothing. As soon as you get rid of them and you try to fix the system, you hear the argument of, oh, you don't like Afro Guyanese. Joe, you and I had this discussion so many times. I mean, while we were in opposition and beyond that.
Look, the arguments of that sort will continue because that is the last and only argument the Apnoites and their acolytes they have. They have nothing to bring to the table regarding national development and where we take this country in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. What vision can we point young people to? They were in government and they failed miserably, visionless, and in opposition, they are the same. They can be no different in this regard. But as I said earlier, as a government, we have to govern in the best interest of all the people of Guyana. And look, some months ago, you would recall, Eddie and viewers, we had hundreds, we are told, of Cubans camping out in Suriname to come over into Guyana once the ferries start to work again. The point is, that was there, we had the evidence, and the government took action to ensure that they did not arrive here. Because once they land here, we would have had a situation where we would have been responsible for their safety, their security, and their welfare until they acquire refugee status from the United States embassy here. And that was their intention. But we had to take necessary steps. These racist dullards, you didn't hear them, speaking to that matter. And then the other issue that you hear throw into the mix, the issue of the Venezuelans, as indicated by the AG. The world is aware of the problem in Venezuela and the many of the persons, by the hundreds, by the thousands, who have sought refuge in other South American countries. And in the case of the Venezuelans here, if you bundle up all Venezuelans, you're missing the point. There are three types of people from Venezuela who are migrants here. One, Guyanese who were born in Guyana, who fled under the past PNC government and who lived for decades in Venezuela. They have now returned to their homeland. Secondly, you have children of those persons who have returned, who have come to Guyana in some instances the first time. Some of them cannot even speak English. They only speak Spanish. And then you have persons who are born nationals of Venezuela. So it's three separate persons. And I deal with this matter on a regular basis with the IOM and the ILO and all, and the UNDP, dealing with the migrant population that is here in Guyana. And Guyana has an obligation based on same conventions, different type of conventions that we have signed on to, that the AG has articulated different types, but we have conventions we have signed on to that deals with migrant fleeing their jurisdiction, refugees, and the whole like. And whatever we do and are doing regarding the influx of Venezuelan here who are seeking refuge, all it is based on the obligations that we have and conventions we have signed. So the persons who are attempting to mix the matters up are doing an injustice to their own argument. They're different things. They might have, I don't know, some trafficking in persons issues in the migrant population that are coming to Guyana from Venezuela. But regarding the Haitians specifically, it is as articulated and as indicated by the AG, the evidence is there. This is a criminal conspiracy of international nature, and we cannot have it happening in our country, staring us in the face. And I suspect many of the persons who are arguing the case, they are beneficiaries of proceeds of crime. So they will not stop arguing the case for the Asians because they are benefiting. And AG Nandlall pointed out, the person who hired the boats and the minibus man and the cooks and the stewards and the shepherds, all of those will lose money if they are controlled via visa entry. So that's the thing. So you have to understand the conspiracy. We have to kill the conspiracy, and we have to use legal tools and remedy to bring this criminal conspiracy to an end, and is what the government is doing.
And interestingly, you mentioned a couple of things there, Minister Hamilton, because I want to move to another issue. But outside of those who will be losing financially as a result of the government of Guyana, the PPC government taking the right actions, there are those who want us to forget our recent past. So they create every single diversion possible that they can to turn the attention away, because we saw just a few days ago, GCOM took actions against three persons who were part and parcel of creating our recent past history. Not a very nice one. But they want us to forget that. So they create the diversions as we speak. Every single day they come up with something, they play the race card, they lie, they like Hammond lied about the vaccines, fabricating stuff all the time. But exactly a year ago, the Right Honorable, I think if I address her correctly, Mayor Motley, the Prime Minister of Barbados, made a statement, and I'll play that statement before I engage the AG and Minister Hamilton. So let's play the statement, then we'll come back and have some discussions on this. Exactly.
Many of us have observed with great sadness what has been transpiring in Guyana. It is more than 100 days since the people of Guyana went to the polls, and yet there is no declared result. From the very beginning, we have been clear and said consistently that every vote must count, and every vote must be made to count in a fair and transparent way. Regrettably, we have seen a level of gamesmanship that has left much to be desired and has definitely not portrayed our Caribbean region in the best light. This is definitely not our finest hour, and we must not shy away from that reality. The Caribbean community is concerned at reports that the Chief Elections Officer has submitted a report to the Guyana Elections Commission, which is contrary to the directions given by the Commission and which does not reflect the results of the recount process as certified by the very staff of the Guyana Elections Commission and indeed witnessed by representatives of the political parties. Indeed, these numbers and the certification of them were also witnessed by our CARICOM observer team. They traveled to Guyana in spite of the pandemic and the risk to themselves, and they scrutinized the recount process. The CARICOM observer team was of the unshakable belief that the people of Guyana expressed their will at the ballot box on March 2nd, and that the results of the recount, certified as valid by the staff of the Guyana Elections Commission led to an orderly conclusion on which the declaration of the results of the election could and would be made. Therefore, we must ask, on what grounds and by what form of executive fiat does the chief elections officer determine that he should invalidate one vote, far less over 115,000 votes, when the votes were already certified as valid by the officers of the Guyana Elections Commission in the presence of the said political parties? We must remind all that if there is any evidence of fraudulent or improper conduct, then there is a clear and well accepted route to deal with these matters. It is through an election petition to an election court. Any attempt to provide numbers different from those certified by the staff of the Guyana Elections Commission has left many in shock and wondering what next will happen to frustrate the will of the Guyanese people. The role and focus of political parties must be useful and not obstructive in embracing and promoting the clear and express will of the people. And when we confuse and frustrate that will, is when we begin to sow the very seeds of discord and acrimony that we are sworn to dissuade and discourage. The community holds the strong view that no voter must be disenfranchised in determining the credibility of this or any election. It is this commitment to a fair and transparent political process that led CARICOM to send 2 electoral observation missions, one for the elections and one for the recount. In addition, 4 prime ministers accompanied me to talk to both sides and to urge patience, especially after the loss of one life. We thank you, the Guyanese people, for that patience. As you await the finalization of this process, we urge again that you be patient and that you be committed to the fact that no electoral process can replace the life of any Guyanese, or anyone for that matter. There must be room for all, regardless of who wins and who loses. I assure you that the community remains committed to the people of Guyana and remains resolute that the report of its observer mission was very clear in its conclusions as to the will of the Guyanese people as reflected in the recount which they monitored.
Gentlemen, I bring you back. We've listened to exactly a year ago, this statement was made by the Honorable Mayor Motley. And, I don't know about you, but I listened to the statement just now and my skin was growing because I remember what we went through for 5 months. And these are the very people who had us in that position, outside of those from GCOM, but Granger, Harmon, and his gang, who are today trying to attack us, attack the PPP, and to make all sorts of fallacious claims about the PPP. AG, I'll give you the first chance to go. We're reflecting on something that I think is indented in the hearts and minds of all Guyanese.
Certainly, hearing the Honorable Prime Minister of Barbados speak brought back fresh memories of those tragic days. And when you reflect upon what we had to endure here as a people, the anguish, the agony, the frustration of listening to what they were saying. Ramjatan's talking about Russians coming here, and the ghosts are in the boxes, and oh Lord God, when I remember those things, a ballot box because some paper, some formal document is missing. So the logic is all those people whose votes are in that box must they must lose their votes because some staff of GCOM didn't sign some certificate of employment. And you had to deal with that hour in and hour out. It's a wonder people didn't run mad in this country, I'm telling you. And then on top of all of that, they are looking us in the face and saying to us that we stole the elections. These are a special breed of people, my friend. Special breed. So that unfortunately, along with the global pandemic, the COVID 19, and the floodwaters, we also have to deal with that disaster of these people saying the things that they are saying, describing our government as installed. Every time I hear that they say that, it reminds me and it reminds everyone how insane these people are, how far removed from reality these people are. And hearing Prime Minister Miyamotli speak there just now, me right back to that period. And these things are coming to me very, very quickly now, what we had to go through. Imagine Granger, the characters from coming in. Stop the observers recon. He chose the CARICOM. He said that they are the best locutors. And when the people produce their results, he said, throw it away. He does not accept it. Oh, my Lord. So, Eddie, thank you very much for refreshing my memory and refreshing the Guyanese memory and to really give them a true appreciation of the quality of personnel that we are dealing with here. And their attitude and their position and posture on that election issue from beginning to end is the same posture they take on every issue. So they sit in the parliament and they laugh and they skin their teeth and they shout and they scream and that's considered heckle. They abuse people and insult people. And that, according to them, is acceptable parliamentary behavior. They have some programs on the Facebook. All it, like this guy, Sherrod Duncan. All he loves wearing mask and who not wearing mask, and he posting about that. He's Guyana's mask police. I don't know if if I don't wear a mask, how does that and he makes that public, how does that improve the lot of any of APNU supporters, any one of them who put him in the parliament and is causing him to get a livelihood through a salary which he really doesn't deserve? That is what they do whole day. So they see some minister without you take off a mask for a minute and a picture, you get taken in a picture. That is a big thing for them. They run around whole day and they post that. That's the kind of foolishness and the kind of frivolity that engulf them, and that's what they are doing all day long. And when they get tired of that, then they, of course, any major issue, they throw out the race card, and that's what we are seeing on this issue.
For the 5 years that they spent it there. So you're right. It's it's a party. They were a government of frivolity, and it's a party of frivolity. They will continue like that. Shara Duncan, like you rightly said, two women fighting somewhere in the interior over some issue, maybe had two beers. That becomes a topic on his program. Somehow, the fighting between these two women has an impact on the livelihood of the rest of the nation. If they don't fight, probably people are going to be better off. That is the that is the kind of thing you're dealing with. Joe, I bring you in here. I know you're raging.
The thing is, whilst Anil was speaking, and whilst the Prime Minister was speaking, and she spoke about this 100 and whatever, 15,000 votes. If you recall, Granger said that the best report of the election results was Lowenfield concoction. I mean, I mean, uh, this guy was president of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, and he is telling us, an honorable guy that who ran his campaign on honesty and integrity, he said that he didn't accept the CARICOM report. He accepted Lowenfield's magic, and that is what the commission, the chairman, should declare the results on. And those type of banality you had to live with. But importantly, I've always said this, and will continue to say it. The Guyanese people are wiser now. And in all the frolic and frivolity that APNO, AFC, PNC leadership they go through, they fool no one but themselves and the like-minded. The large percentage of the Guyanese people are wiser, and their interest and concern is their development and that the livelihood and development of their children. And for us in the government, that is our focus, and we will continue to focus there. Ensure we bring service to the Guyanese people, ensure we show them a way out of darkness and shine light, ensure that we can have them uplifted via different progressive means. But at the same time, like we're doing tonight, we will have to come regularly to the television and to the radio and wherever to debunk the foolishness that is peddled by the APNU AFC and their extremist acolytes. More so, the regular conversation styling everything around race. I mean, if the chief elections officer is of African ancestry and he tried corruptly to rig an election, who you want us to charge? The man who didn't have Vishnu? You want us to go find Vishnu and lock him up because we shouldn't lock up Lowenfield or charge him? If it was Myers who throw us out and attempt to throw out commissioners and was part and parcel of all the rigging attempts at Ashmin buildings. If she is of African descent, what do you want us to charge? Can't charge nobody else but her, Mingo, a good guy, they say, a pastor, and he should be charged more than once. The fact that he preached righteousness to people and he embarked on an evil frolic. So the point is, Eddie, they will continue with these arguments as we go along. You know, I don't put it past them that one day they will make an ethnic argument around the COVID-19 vaccine. I have predicted that, and I believe it will come to pass. I saw one
Maybe
Patrick.
let's get us up to that with what he's saying.
No, no,
I
no.
mean, very
I saw one Patrick Yard not so long ago speaking to the COVID-19 vaccine. And, you know, he's a medical doctor, he's a scientist, and all that kind of thing. All sort of garbage about no vaccine that is not authorized by WHO should be utilized in Guyana. The fact is, the great United States of America, and most, if not all the countries, started to vaccinate their persons before the WHO sanctioned the vaccine. So you have that kind of banality, and I'm saying, and I'm repeating, I don't put it past Congress, please, to start a narrative, racist conversation around the COVID-19 vaccine and the government intervention. But the people are not fooled, as I've said. The people are wiser now, and we will have to continue to give service and to govern this country that we were elected to govern.
I was hoping to. I think time is against us, but we're already out of time. But I was hoping to introduce the issue. I mean, while all of this is happening, while Harman is dancing all over the place with all sorts of lies and misinformation and stupidity, you have an implosion in the PNC. So, there's a saying about karma. There's a saying about karma. So now you have a situation where the PNC is busy trying to throw out Granger because they consider Granger to be a dictator by accepting Sharma's one man party and Tabitha's one woman party, if you want. They are now arguing that the man is a dictator and they want to get rid of him. But they were upset when the Guyanese people got rid of him. But I don't know, gentlemen. Maybe I'll give you a few minutes, maybe 2 minutes each, to look at what is happening. So the PNC is in utter disarray, absolute confusion. The APNU is in the same state. The AFC has disappeared. We don't know if that exists anymore. But there's is complete confusion in that camp. So what are they trying to do is to use every and anything that they can, as much as it may be riddled with lies and misinformation, to try to turn attention away from the mess that they have gotten themselves in. And I think the mess started from the day they decided to put Harman as leader of the opposition and to put Sherrod Duncan and all the others in parliament. I think the mess that was the final load of mess, if you want, in the PNC and the APNU AFC. So, gentlemen, I'll give you an opportunity to close to wrap things up quickly.
Just quickly, Eddie, I would say this. I don't want to waste my time on Congress Place and the People's National Congress. Those are my closing remarks.
I give the AG a closing comments.
While I share the view of my brother, I would like to be a little more judicious simply because they represent an important and a substantial segment of our society. And it is those people that I care about, I'm concerned about. And I don't know when they will realize that conceal for too long the lack of substance. You cannot hide for too long competence. You cannot hide too long the lack of vision. These things to fore. The PNC leadership has none of those things. And it became evident. You see, before 2015, they never had the reins of government. So they talk, and that's one thing they can do. They can talk. So they were talking and they were winning minds and winning people over. And from the moment they were given the opportunity to perform, responsibility to deliver promises, articulate policies, implement policies, move a nation forward, it was all a bluff. And so everything disintegrated and fell on a heap. All they have to hold on to those people with is the race card. And that is why they are playing it so recklessly now and so regularly. They can't point to accomplishment. They can't point to competence, neither in government nor in opposition. Worse yet, in government. They can't explain how they pay themselves, how much percent as their first official act. And so many scandals and the thieving and the corruption and the discrimination. They can't explain those things. They did anything for those the very people that I'm speaking. They never did anything for them. They fill their own pockets, about 100 of them. Only about 100 persons benefited from this regime. They'll suffer. Hold on to people have is the race card. They're not competent. They can't act a policy and criticize this government constructively. They can't put up an alternative plan or policy to anything that we are putting forward. Nothing like that. All they can do is to appeal to the basal instincts of race. That is their survival. They are surviving now. So we just have to endure it, and it will not last long because people are educated, people are sensible, and people want to get on with their lives, and they are seeing progress around them every single day. Despite the flooding, despite the COVID pandemic, they are seeing money is circulating, jobs are being created, people are buying stuff. You drive around this city, you drive around the country, construction is going up, buildings are being built, investors are coming, hotels of international brand are coming. So they're seeing that. So the race card is becoming less and less potent and becoming more and more irrelevant. So those are my closing remarks. And well, we have already discussed the Haitian issue already. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. The Honorable Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs, Anil Nandlall, and of course the Honorable Minister of Labor, uh, Joseph Hamilton. Gentlemen, it was a pleasure to have you. I hope we could have. I was hoping that we could have gone on much longer with so many other issues to discuss, but time is against us. So again, it's been a pleasure to have you, and to our viewers, we want to say thanks for watching. We're going to be back with you to bring you more information as we go forward. Until then, we urge you to, those of you who have not yet taken your vaccines, to do so. And if you're going out, to wear a mask, social distance, and sanitize. Protect yourself, protect your family. Have a good rest of the evening. Bye for now.